let's touch on some stuff you dug up about Europe because obviously it's a super common destination, and I think becoming even more of a common destination for the digital nomad types as well.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. This is episode number 104. Released on Wednesday, January 6th, 2016. I'm Erik, checking in from Grand Ledge, Michigan with AJ in Budapest, Hungary. How you doing, man? Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year, man. I'm doing well over here. Other than that, just absolute club to the head my Spartans received on New Year's Eve. But otherwise, life is good, man.
Good. I'm glad to hear. We've got some cool information to go over today. On this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the best credit cards for 2016. There are some very good offers, and in particular, a few offers that are higher than normal. And so we're going to run through some of those cards. It's a great time of year, if you haven't done so recently, to pick up some additional points with the sign-up bonus. We're also going to talk a little bit about where programs are going, what programs we think are the most valuable, and cover sort of the first half of the information on some of the top frequent flyer programs for 2016. We'll also be following up on a future episode with some more details and numbers once AJ and I and our team have a chance to go through a little bit more of the information from 2016. So we've got that, and then I guess just a few travel updates and some interesting information to share about visas. So looking forward to a really good episode, and we're going to put all the links at abroaders.com/OLA 2016. And that's HOLA 2016.
All right, man. Hey, I know I shared this with you, but I wanna share this with the community because it's always fun when you actually practice what you preach and you get rewarded. So, as I kind of shared with you, I didn't tell you exactly how it unfolded, but I was upgraded on my flight from Detroit to Paris, which, depending on the tailwind and how eager the pilot is to get there, is anywhere from, I don't know, 6 to 7.5 hours. So that's definitely a long flight to be stuck in the middle, especially if you're next to a couple of big people. But I ended up getting bumped up for free to premium economy, which is a pretty big jump. It was a little bit outdated, but it was definitely a lot of legroom, drinks flowing, all that good stuff. And it was because of the gate. It was just, I have no idea what was going on with Air France, but somehow nobody had a seat assigned to them. And so
no.
everyone was at the gate, and everyone individually had to go up there to check in, and then still people didn't have a seat. So when it became time to board, people were up at the gate trying to get boarding passes printed off, and it was just a complete cluster. People were flipping out, and the people that had reserved seats and windows and aisles that they booked a long time ago were being stuck in the middle and the back of the plane. Everything was messed up. So people were flipping shit, and I saw an opportunity to be Mr. Nice Guy and sympathize towards the poor gate agents, and I let them know that their life must be hell now, and I won't bother them, and I'll just kind of go wait over here for a while, and they can sort it out later. They can take care of the anger of people first. And long story short, one of the ladies, gate agents, I saw her kind of tap one of her supervisors and say something, and then point to me, and I knew something good was going to happen because I knew she was asking permission to do something with me. And then she came over to me and she's like, "Thank you for being so patient." Handed me my boarding pass, premium economy, window seat, game changer versus I would have been, I think, stuck in like row 42 in the middle. And it was a packed house too, man. There was no open seats. So
Wow.
once again, in being kind to the gate agents, the people on the phone, they have more discretion than you can think. Or I guess they just had to put me somewhere, and I was polite, so they gave me one of the good seats.
That's great, man. I guess my one question, so I can imagine this scene with all of these people, trying to figure out their seats and trying to work their way up to the front. How did you manage to get up there and establish that you weren't in a hurry and they could take care of you while all these other people are waiting in line? Like, how did you manage to get that across without like jumping and cutting in on her trying to help somebody else?
Well, I knew it was going to be a little bit of a shit show. So when they told us that we could get in line, I got in line because I knew I still had to sort out my seat. And the thing is, when I got up there, the lady was trying to just get me any seat, and the system was having big trouble. She was calling other people, trying to sort it out, have other people look in the system, and she was getting stressed. So at that point, I just kind of tapped out. I submitted and just said, "Hey, don't worry about it. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Like, I'll be over here. I know that this has got to be a nightmare for you, so don't worry about me. I know the plane's not going to leave without me, so I'm just going to be over here and stuff." And
Great strategy.
um, yeah, and then some of the people had the most unreal. This is how long I waited. I think I was the last person on the plane, and there's people that boarded the plane. I don't know how the people let them off the plane, but people were coming off the plane back to the gate to complain about their seats. And one of the guys' complaints was that it was a French guy, and he was complaining that the guy next to him was going to talk to him the entire flight, and he just couldn't have that.
Oh man.
I
I
shit
mean,
you not.
nobody likes the chatty Cathy next to him on the flight, but what an insensitive way to deal with the gate agents. Just
He
oh man,
he
I can
comes back.
imagine this was a
He goes,
mess.
I can't do this. I can't do this. This guy next to me is talking. He will talk to me the entire flight, and I'm just going to sit there. And the guy goes, okay, well, what do you want? He goes, I would like an aisle seat. He goes, okay, well, your seat is an aisle seat. So there you go. Go back on the plane.
Oh man. Well, speaking of upgrades, I want to just put a link in the show notes for this because it looks like there might be an upgrade to something even beyond first class. This is like a
Oh, I
little
saw
bit
this. This is awesome.
futuristic. I believe this was one of our listeners that just sent this along by email. I've got the name Zando, so if you're out there, thanks so much for sharing. But this is basically a sky deck, and they've got this concept for what basically seems to be some sort of plexiglass bubble on top of the plane that's going to have a few seats. And so you're basically going to be able to have 360-degree vision outside of the plane for a few select seats that are obviously going to cost a huge amount of money. Maybe someday those will be available with points.
Yeah, and if it's actually what they have in like this futuristic 3D video, those seats rotate 360 degrees around.
So cool. I
Yeah.
imagine that's probably something that's actually more fun even on a short flight because takeoff and landing and low altitude are kind of where it's at, where that could be more interesting. You know, if you get a 16-hour flight across the Pacific, there's nothing to see on the ground and it's probably dark for half the time. But either way, super cool concept, and I'd love to see an innovation in aviation engineering that makes it possible to sort of feel like you're sitting outside of the plane.
Yeah, that's big time. Hey man, before we get into cards and program stuff, let's touch on some stuff you dug up about Europe because obviously it's a super common destination and I think becoming even more of a common destination for the digital nomad types as well. And the big deal with Europe is in the Schengen zone, you can only stay essentially 3 months every 6 months. So you can't really stay in Europe for more than 3 months in a row if you're effectively in the EU. There's some exceptions with the way the zoning is, but you found some stuff, some workarounds on how you could possibly stay longer than 3 months in Europe.
Yeah, so that's going to be an issue for both of us. You're already in Europe, in Hungary, and that's one
Hmm.
of the member countries of the Schengen zone. So
Hmm.
you've already started the clock on your 90 days. And basically, if you get to day number 90, you have a full 90 days before you can come back. Now, as far as if you just want to stay in sort of continental Europe, you can go to the UK. There's a few countries that are not part of that zone. I think Moldova is one of them. There's a few Eastern European states that you can hang out in, and they have totally separate visa requirements, at least for US citizens. And depending on what your passport is that you're traveling on, there could be some other options. But you and I just have US passports at the moment. And
Hmm.
so one of the options that I uncovered was a Germany issued entrepreneur visa that gives you the option to stay possibly 1, possibly even 2 years. And we're going to link in the show notes. There's an English language page from the German government that explains how this works. And it looks like, number one, if you actually get the visa, You can do so as a freelancer. So you have some sort of established income as a freelance. Maybe you do websites. It's not specific at all about what type of work you do as a freelancer, but they'll let you in as a freelancer potentially. And there's also one that lets you in as an entrepreneur, but you don't have to move your company or have employees in Germany. So all in all, it looks like a really cool way that they're trying to attract digital nomads and people that are sort of on the cutting edge of work and travel type lifestyle. And so the best part about the Germany one is that even if you don't get the visa, you still can get an extension on your current tourist visa in the Eurozone. So in other words, if I apply on like day 87 and it takes them a few weeks for them to figure it out, they'll give me a 3-month extension. So that's going to make it possible for me to show up in Europe in March and ideally be able to stay through the end of the summer, even if I don't end up getting that German residence visa that'll let me stay 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, man, that is the beauty of that one. You know that even if you get denied, you've got another 3 months coming. So it's a minor win because it really is tricky, man. I've looked into this quite a bit. I see you've gotten down the Spanish entrepreneur one. I'm wondering if that's the one I saw as well, where uh, essentially it's like, is that the self-employed one or is it explicitly for entrepreneurs?
Well, so the Spanish visa that I had heard about was through the Dynamite Circle. There were a lot of people that were working on this, and that one seems to require at least $5,000 in capital to get set up. I don't know if that's paying $5,000 just to get the visa, or if that is some sort of scenario where you have to invest that much in the Spanish economy at
Okay,
some point.
I was looking at something else because Spain's got a visa that it's like a quasi-retirement one where you essentially agree to not work there, but you need to prove to them that you have the means to live there.
Hmm.
And if you agree to not work there, and I think it's maybe depending on how, like, I don't know, 2,800 euros, 3,000 euros a month, you can prove an income. I think you can get up to 2 years, but the paperwork didn't look fun on that one. The
Yeah.
Germany one looked much more enticing. And I mean, if we're going to play stereotypes, I'm guessing the Germans are a little bit more buttoned up with with the process than the Spaniards.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple other things just to put out there for other people that are considering this. One of the other great ways that you can get a longer term stay in Europe is by doing so as a student. So if you're looking to study Spanish or one of the other languages in a European country, that can be a great way if you enroll in a language school at least half time. Most countries will give you a visa to stay there. Sometimes you need to enroll full time, and depending on what kind of classes and what university you're taking those classes through, it probably is more expensive than your typical visa application. You might spend $1,000 on language classes, but if you are truly trying to learn the language, that could be a great investment. So that's sort of another possible way. Let's talk a little bit about some black hat stuff or gray hat,
Yeah.
that might be possible.
Yeah, so here's something anecdotally. I don't think anywhere explicitly the people in Europe say, yes, this is completely above board, but it is possible to obtain two passports legally. And if you kind of think about it, if both passports are valid, if you want to do a little dipsy do, you hop in on passport one for your 90 days, and then you jet on down to Morocco, and then you enter with the other passport, and you kind of do the curly shuffle back and forth 90 days. Um, and the reason you can actually get two passports is because there are some visas that do require to mail in your passport, and you are entitled to a passport. So to cover for that scenario, you can actually get the second passport that's valid for, I believe, 2 years. Um, there's varying services that do that, but like I said, that's definitely not getting that second passport in the spirit of why they allow you to do that. But I have heard reports of people getting away with that and having that work.
Couple of interesting things. I mean, first of all, we are not recommending anybody do this, and if you're going to do it, you should probably talk with an attorney, and you should find out what the real rules are. It sounds like the spirit of the rule is one person 90 days at a time. The other thing, though, that is probably even more gray in terms of whether it's okay or not is if you actually legitimately have two passports. So, for example, lots of countries let you have dual citizenship, and you can have a passport for both countries. It's actually really nice if you have two, in the sense that there's often arbitrage between which countries you have to pay a visa fee. So, had I had a Brazilian visa, like my girlfriend, I could have stayed in Thailand 3 months without paying anything, but instead I only had 1 month. And so that sort of arbitrage is possible to sort of avoid visa fees, but it's also conceivable that you could enter as a Brazilian citizen to Europe, leave for a little while, and the next time enter as an American citizen with your American passport. Also, probably not what the Europeans want you to be doing, but it's going to be interesting because this is a time of transition where I would expect in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be getting our eyeballs scanned going through, international borders rather
Hmm.
than just showing them a piece of paper. So it'll be very interesting, I guess, to see how much the movement of travelers, and especially as more people become location independent, how that works with them having the technology to be able to biologically figure out where you are rather than just scanning a piece of paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final piece, kind of like Eric said, we're not condoning anything, but one thing to keep in mind too, if you do happen to roll the dice, is every country is different. So if you hear a report of, you know, Joe Schmo heading into France and leaving from, say, Hungary, that might be a different circumstance than say if you go into Spain and leave from the Netherlands. Some countries are more lax on that. We've heard reports of people overstaying their visa a couple weeks and being detained for a little bit, and then they are let go. Other people that overstay and they have a stamp on their passport, illegal immigrant. So just
Be very careful.
understand what you're getting into.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, the last thing is definitely if you do something egregious like overstay your visa for more than a few days, more than a week, or you try and re-enter after you've been in the country 90 days and you haven't waited the 90-day out of the European Union, you can get banned. They can just stamp your passport, say that you violated the rules and that you can't come back. And I know that that is a really nasty situation to be in and can follow you for the rest of your life. So probably not that cool. There's also really nice countries in the rest of the world that you can visit for the next 90 days and see what goes on. But I would love to find out any people that have discovered legitimate ways to get entrepreneurs visas, student visas, ways that you can legitimately stick around in Europe. Those would be super useful to us, and we'll definitely report back on how the Germany entrepreneur visa goes if we're able to do that this spring.
Yeah, absolutely, man. How about it? You want to move into what we've got as the top cards right now?
Yes. All right.
Yeah, so the first card we've got on the list is the Chase Sapphire. And a couple of reasons is number one, the bonus is higher than the spin. The bonus is currently at 50,000 points. Previously, it was at 40,000. And another main reason is it's kind of a now or scenario with this card because Chase has become a little bit more strict with who they give this card to. And is it 4 or 5 applications within a 2 year span, and then you cannot be approved for this card?
Seems like 4 you're okay, 5 you're not.
Yeah, so if you've applied for 5 cards in the last 2 years, as it is, you can't get the Chase Sapphire card. So if you've already applied for a couple and you're thinking about doing another round of applications, uh, it's go time, or else you're not going to be able to get this card. And on top of it, earning 50,000 bonus points and a really valuable currency. It's a really nice travel card. There's no foreign transaction fees. First year annual fee is waived, and there's a bunch of other really, really nice benefits that offers quite a bit more than other credit cards do as far as the actual card itself beyond the bonus.
Yeah, before we move on to the next one, just a couple of highlights of sort of what you're getting in exchange. So the ultimate rewards points can transfer to Korean and Singapore. Those are both pretty good for business and first class redemptions on SkyTeam and Star Alliance, respectively. It's also transfer partners with United, which has great routing rules and is super useful for Star Alliance availability with very low taxes and fees. And then last but not least, if you're traveling in the US, you can turn those into Southwest points. They're worth less by far than if you use them for long haul international on United or in a premium cabin with Singapore or Korean. But those are two other options. And then, I guess, last but not least, also British Airways for short direct flights. So super flexible. And once you have that card, if you do have it, I highly recommend not closing it, even if they're asking you to pay that $95 annual fee. You should absolutely give them a call, ask them to waive the fee, because once you close that card, assuming you're actively going after bonuses, you're probably going to climb above that 5 application limit and not be able to get the card again. So now's the time, as AJ said, and if you have it, think twice before closing it.
Yeah. All right, what we got next, homie?
Okay, so this one is a good teammate for the Chase Sapphire card. This is the Chase Ink, which is the business card that offers Chase Ultimate Rewards. Now, there used to be a Chase Ink Bold card, which was a charge card, meaning you had to pay the balance at the end of each month. Now they've got a Chase Ink Plus, which is a credit card and earns those same Ultimate Rewards points, also is subject to the same rules with respect to the number of applications. So you're pretty likely to get denied if you've got more than 4 applications in the last 24 months. And by the way, those are across all banks. So that's not for Chase applications. That's 4 applications total. Now, a couple of quick links. All the transfer partners, all the other stuff is the same for this card. So one of the big differentiators with this particular card product is that you get 5x on up to $50,000 a year worth of spend at office supply stores. So if you either make a lot of purchases from Staples, Office Max, those type of stores, or you can buy gift cards at those stores for things that you spend a lot of money on, you can get up to 250,000 points with that 5x bonus in a calendar year. They also get 2x on telephone services, so like your mobile phone bill and some other things related to that. So, and I believe hotel and possibly gas with the Chase Ink business card. So there's some good categories where you can bonus, and it's great because you can move points back and forth between your business account, the Chase Ink, and your personal account, the Chase Sapphire. Also, the Ink is, I believe, still at a 60,000 point bonus. We don't know when that's going to go away. Typically, it's 50,000. So again, you're getting an extra 10,000 points for free just by timing your application well. So if you haven't done both of those cards and you're under the application limit, I suggest doing both of those at the same time. You're going to bank a full 110,000 points and be able to get some really useful currency that you can use for future travel.
Absolutely. All right, next up, we've got the City Advantage Platinum Select MasterCard. So currently, this has a 50,000 point sign-up bonus after you spend $3,000. And something to note with this is American is changing, they're devaluing their chart a little bit coming in late March. So if you actually spend, $3,000+ a month, it's completely possible to get this bonus and redeem on the current chart. If you're spending closer to $1,000 a month, then you're not going to be able to get the bonus in time, but it's still really valuable. American's program, like we talked about in previous episodes, is it's not the worst change ever. It's still a super valuable currency, and you can still travel a lot of places with those points. A couple other nice things about this card is with this card, when you book through AA, you actually get a 10% rebate on your miles. So, for example, if you book a 50,000 mile business class flight from the US to Europe, you book it with 50,000, and if you use that card to pay the taxes and fees, you actually get 5,000 miles back. So you get 10% miles back, which is nice. And a couple other things. This is actually new. There's no foreign transaction fees, which is nice for those that like to travel. And like the Sapphire card, the annual fee is waived on the first year, and after that, it is $95 a year.
Okay, very cool. So the next card that is a really good companion to the Citi personal card I just talked about is the American Citi Advantage business card. Very similar in terms of benefits. It does not have the 10% rebate on points redeemed, so you don't have that. And you also, I believe, do have foreign transaction fees at this point in time. But this one is also a 50,000 point bonus. And the offer has fluctuated quite a bit between whether you need to spend 3,000 and 2,000 to get that 50,000 point bonus. But the bonus is higher than normal. Usually it's at 30,000. So at the moment, I believe it's 3,000 in 90 days to get 50,000 points. You can potentially bank a full 100,000 points by combining these two offers. However, you probably will get automatically denied for one of the two offers if you apply on the same day. Citi has a rule that none of the other banks have, that it's 8 days between any application rather than the standard 65 or more days between applications of the same type. So to see if you're qualified for these, number one, make sure for the personal card it's been at least 65 days since your last personal application with Citi and more than 8 days since any application with Citi. So you can choose to do this two ways. You can either apply for these cards 8 days apart, or you can apply on the same day and just know you're going to have to call reconsideration for one of the two cards. I guess the last thing to be aware of, what AJ mentioned a little bit as far as how much you spend. if you're looking to use these American Airlines points on premium cabin tickets, especially with partner airlines, that would include airlines like Cathay Pacific, JAL in Europe, Air Berlin and British Airways, and Finnair in Europe, and LAN and TAM to South America. If you have aspirations for high price if you have aspirations for the premium cabin tickets, you really want to make sure that you use your points before March 22nd. So if you're going for that strategy, you should know that on average it takes about 4 weeks from the time that you pay the bill on the bill that crosses the $3,000 spend. So let's say you get the card right now, it's January 6th. You decide to go out and get this card today. You're probably going to get it in the mail by next week. So now it's maybe January 10th or 12th. If you hit the spend on the first statement cycle, you're very likely to have enough time to book in advance of March 22nd. However, if you end up getting to 2,500 or 2,800 and don't quite hit that on the first billing cycle, you're likely to not be able to book in time. Your points just won't post. You won't see the bonus in time. So what I'd suggest is don't go after these. It's still a great deal for economy. Those redemptions are not changing that much on the 22nd. But if you're looking for premium cabin, either make sure you can spend the full $3,000 in the first month, or consider buying some gift cards. If you got money in savings, you can purchase $2,000 worth of Visa gift cards, put those in a drawer and spend them over the next 2 or 3 months. You do have to pay off the bill to avoid interest, but that makes the charges happen this month, and that means you're going to get the points in time. So that's one strategy. You definitely want to have the money to pay the bill saved up, but if you can do it that way, the gift cards basically just shift your future spending to the present. As far as the credit card bonus is concerned, get you those points a little bit faster.
Good stuff, man. The next card we've got is the United Mileage Plus Explorer Business Card. What I like about this is the bonus is higher than normal. The bonus it's been at 50K for a while, but it's been down in the 30 range as well. And it's 50,000 points after you spend $2,000 within that first 3 months. So that's it's a pretty nice bonus for the spend size. Where you've got the Chase Sapphires 4K right now, I think, and then the American Airlines cards are 3K. So 2K, not too bad of a spend to get 50,000 points. This card also has no foreign transaction fees. The first year of the annual fee is waived as well. Then it's $95 after that. And one nice perk about this, depending on where you fly or how often you fly, is you do get a couple lounge passes with this card. So it's not, full-blown benefits, but you get a couple of United Club passes. So depending on which airport you're at, if they have a United lounge, you can, present those, or even take a picture of the pass on your phone, and then they can scan you in at the lounge. So that's pretty nice. And do remember that this is a business card. And on that same point, you do not actually need to be incorporated per se to have a business card. You can apply as an individual for a business card. You don't need to be incorporated. You can apply as a sole proprietor under your social security number. So that's a question that we actually get a lot. So even if you don't technically own a business or you're not incorporated, you can get this card. Do keep in mind, do not mistake this with the personal card. The personal card right now, I believe, is a 30,000 point bonus after 1K spend. So if you're really balling on a budget, not spending much money, that's a nice way to get into the game. But right now, the business card is better because it's got 50,000 point bonus after 2K spend, and you get a couple lounge passes, no foreign transaction fee, and like most cards now, it's got the modern chip. So when you're traveling, it's a little bit more secure against fraud.
Nice rundown, man. Okay, so the next one is definitely more for the high spenders. And I'm actually going to include 2 cards in this next section because they're probably going to be either or type cards for you. So we've got the American Express Platinum card, which has a 40,000 point offer if you spend 3K. But less known, there's a 50,000 offer if you spend 3K and get the Mercedes-Benz card, which has $25 higher annual fee. Now, unlike all the cards we've talked about so far, the Amex Platinum card does not waive the annual fee. And if you go the Mercedes-Benz route, which is definitely what you should do to get that extra 10,000 points, the fee is going to be $475. And that's charged upfront, so you have to be able to pay that on the first statement. However, the points are going to be worth roughly $1,000 in terms of travel savings if you use them properly. And you also get an airline credit of $200 per calendar year. So this is a card you probably want to wait at least another 2 or 3 weeks to get, just because it's hard to use the calendar credit in each year. We're very close to the first of the year, so this is one you probably want to wait on, but the offer is pretty strong, and there's a lot of other benefits. We're going to just link to our page that has the Amex Platinum benefits, so you guys can go through them, because it's going to take the rest of the episode to run down the lounge stuff and all the other cool offerings that come with this card. The other high-level card that I wanted to touch on is the Citi Prestige. This card also has a $450 annual fee. The biggest benefit there, you're going to get 50,000 thank you points. Those are probably not as good as Amex points head-to-head, just comparatively. But the nice thing about the Prestige card is if you do purchase airfare, or if you end up with travel plans that aren't very conducive, they're not very flexible, and so they're not very conducive to travel with points, because you just don't want to be inconvenienced by blackout dates or having to be flexible with your travel plans to use points. The thing about the Citi Prestige is you can redeem those 50,000 thank you points at 1.8 cents per point towards paid American tickets. And when you think about that, not only are you getting access to any ticket that American Airlines is selling when you use your Prestige card, but you also get access to the ability to earn miles. So if you buy an international round trip, you're going to get the points for flying on that international round trip. So that's something you definitely want to consider. And the card also has big time benefits in terms of airline fee credit. It has a 4th or 5th night free hotel benefit, and it's got pretty cool other things that you want to look into. So that could be a good alternative if the $450 annual fee is not too huge of a deal, and you're interested in lounge access and some of the other big time benefits that come with those ultra premium cards.
Yeah, go check out the benefits page and the link if you're interested in those. This next card we've got, and this is a card where you're going to have to see if this offer actually applies to you. It's the Delta Gold Amex personal card, and currently it's being advertised as 60,000 point sign-up bonus after you spend 1,000. But when you actually click on the link, at least on Delta's website, it's going to ask for your SkyMiles number and your last name, and you're going to have to see what, as they say, your custom offer is for you. And I just actually checked that out, and the offer for me right now is 60,000 bonus miles after $1,000 in spend within the first 3 months. As most of the other cards now, the trend, no foreign transaction fees. And this actually also offers a $50 statement credit after you make a Delta purchase within your first 3 months. So that's a little bit tricky. You obviously don't want to buy something just to get a $50 statement credit if the thing you buy is expensive. But 60,000 bonus points after $1,000 is that's a really nice bonus. And the thing that we talked about with Delta earlier that I think people need to keep in mind, if it's a currency or some points you're okay with sitting on, they can be quite valuable. But they typically don't just have wide open what we would consider saver availability. I've been pricing out flights on Delta over the last couple of months, and there's definitely good deals that are on par with American and United and the other programs, but they're just not as plentiful.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, SkyTeam's got access to some interesting partners. There's a few airlines in China that can get you access to Asia, as well as Korean airlines. Delta is obviously partners with Air France, and even though you used Air France points instead, you could have used Delta to fly on the same flight. There's also a couple of other options for travel to Europe. And the one that I actually think is most compelling right now for my travels, and probably your travels in the near future, is that they have a partnership with Aerolíneas Argentina and also with Gol, which is a Brazilian domestic carrier. And I have been looking like a maniac for availability to get from Sao Paulo to Salvador, or Salvador back to Sao Paulo. Usually those are the kind of tickets you can buy, or you can use British Airways points. Since there's tons of direct flights, often you can use British Airways to book on TAM, which is another Brazilian domestic carrier. But TAM has been super stingy. I could not find a single date in March that has flights from Sao Paulo to Salvador. And so I looked at Delta, and they've got wide open availability with Gold. So I guess it just goes to illustrate that a little bit of arbitrage and having diversity of your points is important, because I was looking everywhere and it was going to cost 7,500 British Airways points, but there were no seats, so that doesn't help me. And Delta's offering it for 12,500. A little bit of a premium, but I definitely will take it when the paid tickets are costing almost $400.
And the final card we've got is the Citi Thank You Premier MasterCard. And this has a 50,000 point bonus after you spend $3,000 within that first 3 months. And this is actually the same currency, the Thank You Rewards. This is the same currency that Erik was talking about with the higher annual fee card that he grouped in with the Amex Platinum, with the Citi Prestige card is what we talked about. So these are the same points. They've got the same transfer partners. They've got the exact same value. But the benefit of this card is that it does not have the extremely high annual fee. You're not going to get the benefits, but also you're not going to have that annual fee. It should be noted that there are not any domestic transfer partners, so this does not transfer to United, Delta, or American, but a couple of notable transfer partners are Singapore and Air France. So just like Erik touched on earlier with his scenario in Brazil and how the value of being diversified can really help you, definitely does not hurt to have points that can be transferred into other programs that you can book flights with.
All right, well, that sounds good. We started the show with the ambition of getting into program news and notables as well, and we've run for a long time, so hopefully this gives you guys a framework of some of the cards you should at least be considering this year. And we're definitely excited to try and help out. So if you do have any questions about this, probably the best way that you can get in touch and get an estimate of how you're doing is to head over to the website and fill out our survey. It's going to ask you a little bit about your travel plans and also about the type of spending that you have. And we can kind of give you an even more in-depth answer to how much you should be saving in 2016 if you manage this properly. So we're going to save till next week to dive into where the different programs are at, and in particular where we see the opportunities being in 2016 to get the most value out of your points. Again, all the show notes for today's episode are going to be at abroaders.com/OLA 2016. That's HOLA 2016. AJ, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for being with me, and thanks for staying up extra late and hungry to get this info out to our friends.
Absolutely, man. It was my pleasure.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. I've got one that I'm really excited about for this week's International Jam, but before I give it to you guys, I would like to ask anybody that has some experience with music in another language, be it French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, or anything else, and you've got a good track or a good band that we ought to look into, we'd love to hear your suggestions. You can send those to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. And this one is one of my all-time favorite Brazilian bands. It's a group called O Rapa, and the track is Súplica Cearense. It is a really interesting jam and a cool CD, so check it out. The CD is called Sete Vezes, and I hope you guys enjoy. AJ and I will be back next week, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard. Wherever you are, travel safe. Hey, brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
Oh Deus, perdoa esse pobre coitado que de joelhos rezou bocado, pedindo pra chuva cair sem parar. Oh Deus, será